Let's head on down to Honey Island Swamp to rank the 4 Hatchet films. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm ranking all 4 Hatchet films from worst to best. Pretty fun slasher franchise, kind of a throwback to the 80s with its practical effects and crazy kills, while also having a good amount of humor in there. I enjoy all 4 of these films, so hope you guys do too. Sit back, get comfortable, and let's get into this ranking. So coming in the last place at number 4, I have to go with Victor Crawley. Now this movie, it feels cheap in multiple different ways. It feels cheap with its set design. A big chunk of this movie takes place in a plane that crashes, and it feels like a set. You don't really feel like you're in the swamp. And the other thing would be in terms of the story, while like how they bring back Victor Crawley by using YouTube and people doing voodoo and chants on YouTube to bring him back. I thought that was really stupid and not very clever. You know, not a good way to bring back Victor Crawley. Perry Shen returns once more. He's in all 4 of these movies, but he plays 3 different characters, which is pretty funny, you know, playing his twin brother and whatnot. And yeah, it's just hilarious that he's in every one of these movies. The only other actors that are in all 4 films would be Kane Hodder and the director himself, Adam Green. He always kind of gives himself a little cameo in here, and they're usually pretty funny. Dave Sheridan as Dylan. He is friggin' hilarious in this movie. He's best known as Doofy in Scary Movie. And man, it's just so funny how he keeps trying to pick up one of the younger girls in the film, and she wants nothing to do with him at first. And he just keeps trying so hard. And the way he sacrifices himself at the very end to take out Victor Crawley in the plane engine is just too funny, man. And we even get one of the guys from Impractical Jokers, that TV show where they pull pranks on each other and that make each other say things in public. Funny to see him in here, but yeah, pretty good cast. I feel like the movie lacks Victor Crawley himself, though, especially for a movie named after him. We don't get a whole lot of Victor Crawley. He does get a standout kill with Felissa Rose's character, the publicist. Definitely the standout kill of this film, and I'm sure would make a top 5 if we're talking about the franchise overall. But the kill I'm talking about is where he rips off her arm while she's on the phone and shoves it inside of her, and it comes out of her mouth. You can just imagine the phone still in her hand. It's so funny, so hilarious. She fisted herself. Just a really fun kill. And while this sequel is definitely the inferior entry out of the franchise, it's still a real fun time. And if you're a fan of the other Hatchet films, definitely give this one a shot. It's definitely worth your time. Coming in at number 3, I have to go with Hatchet 3. Now, just to give you guys a bit of insight on where I placed these rankings last, the last time I watched these movies, Hatchet 3 was my favorite. And it's funny, it's in 3rd place now. That just shows how very close these films are in quality. But yeah, it's just crazy because every one of my placements this time around are different than the last time I watched, which is just kind of mind-blowing. But besides the point, I absolutely love that we got the police force and the SWAT team and everybody heading to the swamp to try to take out Victor Crawley. And of course, it's real entertaining to watch Crawley just rip them apart limb from limb. The gore is on point as always, and it's just so entertaining. And Derek Mears actually leads the SWAT team, which is another actor who played Jason in the Jason remake, while Kane Hodder, who played Jason 4 times, is Victor Crawley. So that's really cool that we had a moment of Jason versus Jason. And I love the whole intro to this one. Probably the biggest highlight of the film to me, where you get Mary Beth versus Victor Crawley. It picks up right after the ending of part 2, where she's still trying to tear him apart and mushes his face all the crap, puts her fist through it at one point, even sawing him up, like he ends up falling on the saw. It is so awesome, so brutal, and she heads back to town with a piece of his scalp or whatever, a piece of his head. It is just so badass. Unfortunately, that is basically the best part of the movie and the only time we really get Mary Beth in action. Because for the rest of this movie, she's incarcerated. They have her in jail. And then they take her out on a little road trip, and she's handcuffed the whole time right till the very end of the movie. So it's kind of unfortunate. I do like the finale where she takes out Crawley at the very end with his father's ashes. That was a pretty cool way to wrap up this trilogy. But it kind of sucks that we didn't get more Mary Beth just doing badass things in here. Again, we got tons of horror alumni like all these films. In this one, we get the girl plays Stretch. Caroline Williams. She plays Stretch in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. She's also in Leprechaun 3. She's great in that as well. But yeah, she's in here. We also got Sid Haig, who has a hilarious scene. He's incredibly racist, straight to a black cop's face, and the cop is not having it. And it just makes for a really funny scene. This movie happens to be directed by B.J. McDonnell, though, not Adam Green. And this is the only film Adam Green didn't direct. He did write it, though, but I feel like the tone of the movie is a little bit more serious in this one. There's a lot less jokes. There's still some humor in here, but a lot less than the other 3 entries. So the tone is just a little bit more unbalanced than before. I prefer to be more Adam Green style of directing with tons of jokes and everything, but the gore's still on point. The gore is still on point here. It just feels much more serious than before. Up next, at number 2, I'm going with Hatchet 2. Now, this sequel does exactly what a good sequel should, what a good slasher sequel should. It ups the body count and adds to the mythology. And it does an excellent job in both those regards. Mary Beth returns once more to the swamp with a group of hunters this time, and it makes for some pretty damn creative kills. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun characters to see get picked off here. And it's not only great kills, I mean, the practical effects are so good. As a whole, this movie probably has the best kills out of all these films. We get one guy gets his intestines ripped out of his stomach, and then he gets strangulated with it. It's like, wow, very creative. We get a boat propeller right to some dude's face. We get 2 people killed at once on a giant chainsaw up between their legs. So many great ones. But the one that tops them all easily for me is the couple. The guy giving it to the girl from behind, and Victor Crowley coming up behind, chopping off his head, and she doesn't notice, and his body is going faster, and she's like, ah. It is just so funny, and this all leads to him killing the girl too in a hilarious way. Easily the movie with the most fun and outrageous kills. And like I said, I love all the added backstory and mythology in here too, where we found out more of what happened with Victor Crowley, why he's deformed. And it was because his father was sleeping around with the mother's nurse, with the wife's nurse. And the wife eventually found out and put a curse on the nurse because she was pregnant. So when she gave birth, Victor Crowley was born and all deformed and all that. So ugly that the first sight of seeing her baby, the nurse seeing her baby, she died of shock. So hilarious, but I like all that little added backstory because we get a little bit in the first film, but this one just adds to it in a really nice way. But yeah, learning that Mary Beth's father was involved and the uncle and one of the hunters, that was cool too. I'm like, oh, this is really filling in the story here. Now I know I'm going to get heat for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm not the biggest fan of Danielle Harris's portrayal of Mary Beth. I do prefer the original girl from the original film. I thought she did a better job. Danielle Harris is a good actor. I really enjoy her. Obviously, a big fan of Halloween 4 when she was a kid. Does a great job in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 as well. But I don't know. She just felt a bit off with this character, especially coming off the original. And this one just continues the story with a different actress. It just didn't work. The original actress's name is Amara Zaragoza. I don't really know her, but I really do like her portrayal of Mary Beth in the original. And it was just really cool to see Tom Holland in here. I never seen him act in too many films or whatnot, but he's a great director and writer. He directed Child's Play, the original, Fright Night, and he wrote Psycho 2. So he's awesome in my book. And yeah, he's really cool in this film. It's just a very solid sequel with all the gore and the laughs you could wish for. But coming in the first place, I have no choice but to give it to the original Hatchet. I just feel like this movie balances the horror and the comedy perfectly. Has the perfect balance out of all these movies. This is just a great throwback slasher, especially if you're a fan of the 80s slashers when they were booming. This one has it all. It has the great setting, the unique killer, great gore and effects, great kills, everything you want from an 80s slasher, but this came out in 2006. But I feel like they added that early 2000 raunchy comedy in here, and it just pairs really well with that 80s horror. We get a great cast all around in here. Like I already mentioned with Hatchet 2, I much prefer this version of Mary Beth. She is awesome. Even though she's not exactly the main focus of this film, she's definitely one of the more important characters. I love her dad is Robert Englund. He has a great intro in this film with him and his son fishing for gators. It just makes for hilarious dialogue in that. And of course, it's really cool to see Tony Todd in here, who is famous for playing Candyman and 100 other horror characters. He's in here playing Reverend Zombie, and he doesn't have a big role in the first movie, but he definitely gets a bigger size role in part 2. So really cool that he started in here though. But I absolutely love the tragic backstory for Victor Crowley, with him being hidden away by his father because his father was ashamed. It pretty much showed that he cheated on his wife. That's what reminds him of what he did, even though he really loved Victor Crowley. And unfortunately, he accidentally kills him when the place is in flames, trying to get in the door with a hatchet. He goes right through the door into Victor's head, and that's how Victor Crowley ended up with the hatchet mark on his face. And the father ended up dying of basically like a broken heart or loneliness, he died of weird complications. But I just absolutely love this little backstory. And just like a good 80s slasher movie, you need a good little backstory to show how things got into motion and why our killer is the way he is. And all this taking place in a swamp, especially in New Orleans, where there's a lot of black magic and voodoo talk going around, even in the real world. It kind of adds to what's going on and this curses and stuff in the swamp, and I absolutely love it. Of course, this movie or even this franchise isn't going to be for everybody. The film does not take itself too seriously, and you should not either. The first time I watched this, I think I did take it too seriously. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I was pretty mixed on this film and most of the other films. But I think over time, once you realize what these films actually are and how you're supposed to take them, they're just really fun movies that you definitely shouldn't take too seriously. It's just a fun, bloody slasher with a great sense of humor. And on this time around, it easily comes in the first place in my ranking. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 4 Hatchet films. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know how you rank these 4 films down in the comment section. I'd love to hear it. And like I mentioned earlier, this is not my typical ranking. Like, every time I watch these movies, the movie shifts up and down all over the place. So God knows, next time I go through this franchise, I may prefer part 2 or part 3. Who knows? That's just how closely ranked these films are. Very close in quality, and they all share a pretty good story that's easy to follow. So drop your rankings in the comment section. Make sure to follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram if you're interested. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.